Alright guys, Sedgwibber here again today, and yesterday we got some pretty crazy news, or at least early hours of this morning. Gen.G have made another roster change. They have decided to drop SpaceLy back to the bench and bring back Nagafen. Now this is honestly insane. I did not expect this to happen by any means. Let's not forget, just a couple of weeks ago, well literally, yeah, a couple of weeks ago, post Anaheim, they said that they were going to be dropping Nagafen to the bench and bringing SpaceLy back into the active roster. And this surprised a lot of people because Nagafen, you know, they left it till after Anaheim. It didn't seem like he had any real idea that he was going to be dropped off the team. Of course, they had just come second place at City at Anaheim. But still, they decided to drop Naga to the bench, brought back SpaceLy, and they had a great week this week. They went 4-0, they were looking very good, once again undefeated in Search and Destroy. So I was thinking, well, because as soon as I saw this change, when I initially talked about that they decided to make this change, I was like, well, is this really the change that beats 100 Thieves? I don't think so, but to their credit, Gen.G with SpaceLy did look really rather good in this past week. So I was thinking, okay, fair enough, maybe that is the way to go. But they've changed it back, which is just, it's honestly crazy. So like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. And let's hop right into things here, but this is honestly insane. Like, Nagafen has been chilling on the bench. He had a team lined up for the CWL Miami open bracket, and then with like, I think maybe Paz, JetLy, Fellow, and Ferro, or something like, some sort of team like that. Kind of a weird team, but I think maybe some of those names was around there. And then he gets the call up back to Gen.G that I'm sure he wasn't expecting, and SpaceLy dropped straight to the bench. So let's have a look through some tweets here. SpaceLy says the following, and that is the dagger. Honestly crazy. To his credit, he came into this squad and put up a great showing this week. Maybe not in terms of the statistics, but he does seem to get the best out of a lot of his players. He fit into the system, I think, quite well this week. They were undefeated again in S&D. They looked really rather good in most of their series. They looked like a team that, well, maybe it wasn't quite as good as the Anaheim Gen.G that was putting on some really strong performances, but it certainly seemed to be close to that level, and you thought with a bit more time with SpaceLy back in the squad, maybe that's the way to go, because of course at the start of the season, the team was SpaceLy, it came off the Team Space or whatever they joined Gen.G, it was SpaceLy, Nagafen, Major Maniac, Morks, and Havoc of course, and then they decided to get rid of SpaceLy, put him on the bench, and bring in Envoy off the Midnight team. Now initially that change seemed to be a pretty interesting one because at that point they were undefeated in Search and Destroy were Gen.G with SpaceLy. They were 9-0 in their Search and Destroy. Let's remember that they would always lose game 1 and then they'd win the next 3 every single time. They even did that again this week against Elevate, so you know, rolling back the months a little bit here with SpaceLy back in the lineup. That seemed to be their recipe for success, kind of. And then they brought Envoy in for SpaceLy, and honestly, their team initially didn't look quite so promising in the Search and Destroy. They kind of dropped down to like a 50-50 kind of level in Search, but at the same time, you can't really blame that on kicking SpaceLy, in my opinion, because everyone else was looking into Gen.G's strategies anyway, and I'm sure a lot of them carried over, and I'd be very surprised if they did have SpaceLy, they would have kept their unbeaten streak. But anyway, they bring in Envoy. They did look significantly better in the respawn modes, which probably was an important factor of bringing Envoy into the team. So on the whole, I think that change was a pretty good one. Then, post Anaheim, they come second place. They lose to 100 Thieves in the grand final. They beat OpTic in a 3-2 fashion. Arguably coulda, shoulda, woulda, whatever. Lost to OpTic Gaming because they had a couple of clutches that went the other way, but regardless, they do end up taking the victory against OpTic. Impressive stuff. Get beaten by 100 Thieves in the end, and of course they did come very, very close to beating 100 Thieves at London when they got reverse swept in that winners bracket finals or the winners bracket semis, whatever. So, wasn't ideal, but they do make the roster change. They bring SpaceLy back into the team for Nagafen after they come second place, and this was confusing to a lot of people. People thought, well, Nagafen was playing pretty decent, he had a pretty solid event overall, you're deciding to bring back SpaceLy, but it was at least an assumption that this would be there for the roster for World Championships. You know, you're going to play this week, and then if it goes horribly, then maybe you bring back Nagafen. If it doesn't go horribly, as it didn't, they didn't lose a single series, then you would be expecting them to to keep that squad on board. So very, very interesting. Let's have a look through a couple more tweets here. So yeah, complete new rule, 1 week with bad practice in between, still 4-0. It is what it is. They're making their bed. Now they're going to have to lay in it. Best of luck to them. They have better understanding of their system/teamwork with Naga, is the reasoning he replies to Zuma. Now, this is of course very strange, or not necessarily strange, but the fact that you're bringing SpaceLy into the team when you have played the 10 weeks before that with Nagafen, of course Naga is going to have a better understanding of the system and the teamwork. It seems like a pretty lame excuse to me, because if you give him a little bit more time to get back involved with the team, then I'm sure he could get up to that same level as you would have with bringing Naga back. Maybe they don't necessarily like the system that SpaceLy tries to impose. Very, very interesting, but it's really tough to say right now exactly why this change has been made apart from this decision. They went 4-0 on the week. If you were going to bring SpaceLy back and then, think about switching him out, it probably would have been worth saying to SpaceLy up front, okay, we're going to bring you back for this week, we'll see how it goes. If it doesn't go so great, then Nagafen will come back into the team. But it doesn't seem like anyone had that kind of knowledge, especially given this tweet, a reply to Joey Nubsy, their coach. How's everyone doing this fine Saturday? Ready to get back to it, Joe. And just about an hour and a half after this tweet was sent, he was dropped off the team. And I'm sure Joey Nubsy and the rest of the guys had something to do with it. Just to make it clear, I'm pretty sure that Gen.G is not making these decisions as an organization. I'm pretty sure that it is the responsibility of the players, and the players decide which changes are made. So, and maybe the coach as well. So I'm pretty sure, don't put your blame on Gen.G as an organization. I'm pretty sure they let the players do what they want. I think it's the players that have decided to make this decision instead. Very strange, very interesting. Be really interested to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. So yes, Nagafen tweets out, "We go again," which is, it's just a remarkable story, and I'm very intrigued as to why this change has been made. Some people were saying that maybe it's possible that they didn't want other teams to know what their kind of strategies were with Nagafen. They brought SpaceLy in just so as like a placeholder, so they could try some things out maybe and then bring back Naga after. I don't think this decision is overly bad in terms of the long term, what it's going to do to the team. I just don't think it's a good decision in terms of what it means for the individuals, because Nagafen had no idea he was going to get dropped post Anaheim. He ends up getting dropped off the team, and then SpaceLy in a similar situation, he has no idea he's going to get dropped off the team just a week later. If they'd have made these things up front and apparent, of course it makes sense that pre-Anaheim you're not going to say, well, if you don't perform so great, Naga, you're going to get dropped, because that's not going to be great for team cohesion and all of this stuff, which makes sense. But I think this week for SpaceLy, you could have at least said, okay, we're going to try you out, Space, and if it doesn't go so great, then we're thinking about bringing Nagafen back. Now, it's just very strange, and I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts below. Aches was saying something along the lines of, this is why substitutes shouldn't be allowed. And that's also another interesting question that goes along with this. To what degree is the substitute rule responsible for this? To what degree do we want it to be implemented into our game in the next year? Because if any of you guys know much about the Overwatch League system with franchising over there, then there's going to be substitutes next year. I'm hearing it's probably going to be at least a 5-man roster and 2 subs, maybe even a 5-man roster and 3 subs, or something even greater than that. And in Overwatch, you can actually make substitutions in the middle of a series, which I don't particularly like the idea of, but in theory, what you could do is you could have a hardpoint roster, and then when you go into Search and Destroy, you can sub out, you sub out Nagafen, you put in SpaceLy, for example, for your Search and Destroys in the middle of the series, and you play with a slightly different roster, which is, crazy to me, but I guess that's the system they might be going towards. Now, the fact that this is possible and people can just sub out and change between teams every week is interesting to me as well. Of course, this is nowhere near as bad as it's going to be next year. And if you don't like substitutions, then you're not going to like next year very much. I can almost promise you that. But of course, it's interesting the fact that it's possible for Gen.G to not really have a set in stone roster. You'd have thought that substitutions were needed in the case of 100 Thieves at Fort Worth, for example, when they go to top 6 and Priestahh gets ill, he throws up on stage, whatever. They need need to bring back Pharaoh, that's a case where a substitute, you know, it's good to have a substitute. The fact that you have a player who, if you really need it, emergency circumstances, someone can't travel, someone's sick, whatever, they can substitute in for the team. Makes sense. The fact that effectively you can, to some degree, abuse it, I think it's not really abusing though, because I think that this is kind of how it's intended to be used, that you can effectively just flip-flop your roster however you would like. SpaceLy this week, Nagafen the next week, let's just try some things out, and you know, you can swap whichever players you really want onto your substitute spot if you want to make some more significant changes. So it's a very interesting turn of events that has happened here, and I wouldn't be blaming the organisation, I'd be blaming the individual players on the team, if you're going to blame anyone. And well, this is a kind of a funny like meme I saw on Reddit by River here, and well, who really knows what's going on right now? I don't know whether SpaceLy will be able to get himself an open bracket team, because there was a lot of talk maybe that he would like to go onto the Elevate squad, or even that he was linked with going onto UYU in this off-season, but it made a lot of sense for him to stay on Gen.G because he has a contract where he's still getting paid bank when he's on the bench. So I guess he will look to try and form some sort of amateur roster for Miami, but there's not too much time left. There's just under a couple of weeks at this point, so very strange. And yeah, these are their last few results over the last couple of weeks, just to make this clear. So these are the results with, you know, SpaceLy and the team. They beat NV 3-0, they 3-1 Heretic, or they 3-1 Elevate, they 3-0 I'm losing the plot. They 3-0 Heretics, and then they 3-2 E United, which is a very, very impressive result, winning another Game 5. Maybe this is a Game 5 you don't win with Nagafen. So, yeah, are you guys who do support this team, are you still going to be supporting this team moving forwards? And this is what Nagafen had to say on stream. So he was being a bad teammate for a few days, which I guess is what Nagafen saying about himself. They took a chance on SpaceLy. They wanted to go back to the team they just placed second with. So if you want to do that, then I to some degree this makes sense. But if you're going to play second with a team and then you're going to drop the player, like are they expecting SpaceLy to be like gunless himself? I don't understand. You went 4-0, they took a chance on SpaceLy, but yet apparently 4-0 isn't good enough for the chance they took. So very strange, but it does seem like that's what has happened. So yeah, just to mention really, really quickly before we finish the video, the CWL Amateur Finals qualifiers have been going on. So these are the winners so far from Japan: Cyclops, Athlete Gaming, and Mindfreak, of course, from Australia, from the Australian region. So pretty much these teams get free team passes, free accommodation, free travel out to the CWL Miami event, which is the finals for the amateur circuit, and the top 16 at that event will then qualify for the World Championship. So yeah, I think the UK one went on as well. I'm pretty sure Vortex's team won it with like B-Sport, Josh, Defrag, Dave, those guys. So I'll go into more detail on that in the coming days when everything has been officially confirmed. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. Like if you guys enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always. Really interested to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time.
Oh, he's out, I think. Battery. Don't challenge, I'm coming. I got Rider.
We're defending Alpha.
We're back in her.
We're almost out of lives.
One's off that.
We're defending A.
I'm war machine in the Alpha. I punched so many
The
people.
enemy is out of